1982 logos that load on an early Apple computer screen.
Beginning a Sins video by pointing things out on the screen.
Techno reading.
Okay, if someone were reading this, you'd send for narration. If there weren't words on the screen and one of the characters were giving you this information, you'd send for exposition. So, explain how you want information relayed to you, Jeremy, because it is a heretofore unknown method.
Movie betrays its character bias in the opening text scroll.
No, it doesn't. It's simply stating to you that the word this story uses for execution is called retirement. Otherwise, when they use the term, you'd be like, huh?
2019? Damn, Elon Musk better step up his game if we're going to complete this timeline.
Your corny jokes do not count as sins. Also, you know for a fact that this movie came out in 1982, and even in 1992, we thought we'd have flying cars in the year 2000. This movie is set nearly 20 years past that. This is what the future looked like to the people of the early 80s is what I'm saying.
I'm sure the movie has some flimsy reason, but seeing gas fire plumes shoot out of the tops of buildings in the LA skyline just seems stupid as actually. What? They turned buildings into gas pipelines?
Those are obviously sour gas vents at an oil refinery. Dude, we have those today.
Seriously, the pacing of this movie makes Gone with the Wind look like a Rick and Morty episode.
You thought you'd get cool points for mentioning something that people like, didn't you? Well, these are the only points you get.
You're in a desert walking along the sand when all of a sudden you look down. What? What desert?
Leon would be excellent at CinemaSins.
If you mean asking dumbass questions that don't matter,
Doesn't make any difference what desert is completely hypothetical.
then you're right. He would be excellent at CinemaSins.
Let me tell you about my mother.
I know Leon's a superhuman replicant and all, but he lands a perfect kill shot with this pistol while underneath the table, and it has enough force behind it to throw Holden through the fucking wall.
Was that a question or a statement? Because if it's the former, questions aren't sins. And if it was the latter, well, you're just pointing things out on the screen again.
This movie thought Pan Am would still be a thing in 2019. What's next? A flashing billboard for Tower Records? Or a new Brendan Fraser film?
Haha, let's pick on a 40-year-old movie that made predictions about the future that didn't come true, and ignore all the ones that did, like video calls, sex bots, digital billboards, voice controls, and AI.
A futuristic society with flying cars, sentient AI, and light-up umbrellas still also uses physical newspapers.
This is 1982's vision of a future only 37 years away. There was no possible way they could have correctly predicted that newspapers would all but disappear, considering they'd been a thing for 370 years.
A new life awaits you in the off-world colony.
Announce position.
Exactly my point.
Movie unintentionally inspires uninspired future violence porn film franchise.
Hey, there's a word from the English language that I recognize. Let's see if I can talk about that and somehow spin it as a sin for this movie.
Movie is proof that if you future porn enough, people will overlook a convoluted story and consider you a classic.
Blade Runner is one of the simplest stories out there. The only people that don't understand it are those that refuse to pay attention because the movie is a slow burn. That's not the movie's problem. It's more like a you problem.
There was an escape from the off-world colonies 2 weeks ago. 6 replicants, 3 male, 3 female.
But I neglected to tell you these details until after we started watching the footage of the Voight comp test.
Deckard already knew it was about replicants. I mean, he is a Blade Runner, which is the entire reason he's here being briefed. The previous scene was Bryant attempting to convince Deckard to come out of retirement for one last job.
3 nights ago, they tried to break into Tyrell Corporation on the possibility they might try to infiltrate his employees. I had Holden go over and run Voight comp tests on the new workers.
Hang on, how could they be set up as hired employees less than 3 days after they broke into the headquarters? This is one of the biggest corporations in the world, right? Do they not have an HR department?
You don't even know that you aren't asking a real question. And that's sad. The answer is that they took menial jobs that no one would notice.
What do they want out of the Tyrell Corporation?
Well, you tell me, pal. That's what you're here for.
Is something literally on fire between these two? Because neither one of them has been smoking during this scene.
Yeah, but it's clearly a cigarette. Just because they don't smoke in the scene doesn't mean that obvious cigarette smoke isn't obvious cigarette smoke.
They were designed to copy human beings in every way except their emotions.
Okay, I guess we need this obvious exposition. But how does Deckard not already know this? He's been a Blade Runner for long enough to develop a notable track record. He's never run into a Nexus 6 model or heard how they were made.
This is the point. Deckard has been retired. Harry is briefing him on Nexus 6 models, as previously Rick only retired less advanced androids. Asking why he has no knowledge of Nexus 6 replicants is silly, as replicants are illegal and there would be no news about more advanced models.
Okay, obviously Coca-Cola is still going to be around in 2019, but this future assumes they're still going to be using the same slogan as the one in 1982.
The slogan for Coke in 1982 was "Coke is it," and that being the case, there's literally no way for you to see that on this sign. I assume you're referring to the word enjoy, as that's literally the only word that you can clearly make out, and Coke used that up until 2001, so again, this is something that they could never account for, and they use what was currently available in 1982.
The movie only seems long because it keeps spending time on scenes like this that suggest something is going to happen during this space journey, when in reality the only thing that occurs is that you watch said space journey for 60 seconds.
This is the same problem that you had in the Blade Runner 2049 video. You're meant to enjoy these scenes as they flesh out the world and give you something gorgeous to look at. World building, Jeremy.
I want to see a negative before I provide you with a positive.
What's that going to prove?
Indulge me.
And so he does, because reasons.
I mean, the reason is because he asked him to. And hell, Rick was probably curious.
As the digital shades go down and this room gets dark, even while it's a beautiful shot, I'm still stuck inside this owl's brain. And he's got to be thinking, oh, it's hunting time.
And that's a sin because...
Reasons.
Do you mind if I smoke?
It won't affect the test.
Sure, those enormous plumes of f***ing smoke that are obscuring the shots of your eyes that we're specifically monitoring will have no effect on this test whatsoever.
The Voight-Kampff machine doesn't only use the eyes to help determine if a being is a replicant or not, so yeah, smoking is alright.
She's a replicant, isn't she?
Well, I thought the test he was administering was able to tell that 100%. Deckard later learns that she's an advanced replicant, and the test is now in question. But still, he seems pretty casual about his uncertainty here. Thank God dude confirms his suspicion immediately.
Deckard is already positive Rachel is a replicant. The problem is that it took the VK machine over 100 questions to get a positive. You know why this is the case? Because Rachel is a Nexus 7, and this is the crux of the entire series.
Deckard first put his finger into this green goo in the tub before picking up the scale, but his finger's completely clean here.
Probably because whatever that stain was is now dried?
Cool origami gaff, but were you planning on helping out in this investigation at all?
That's not origami. It's a match. In order for it to be origami, it has to be made of paper, as origami literally translates into folding paper.
Fiery the angels fell.
Why would a replicant, good or evil, be prone to speaking in poetry?
Roy has gained consciousness and begins questioning the meaning of life. Because he knows that his lifespan is artificially shortened, he's taken to enjoying what it means to be alive, and for him that includes poetry.
Where would we find this? J.F. Sebastian.
God damn, even the dialogue in this movie takes forever.
It's called acting, Jeremy. Might want to take some lessons with that fake-ass laugh that you have.
What is this fashion statement? A half hood? An overgrown collar? Does she hate peripheral vision, or what?
It's a high-collar jacket, something that visually looks amazing because, movies are a visual medium. People who wear hoods don't have excellent peripheral vision either. You've fallen so low with the nitpicking, man. You're at the point where you're attempting to critique high fashion.
He wouldn't see me.
I guess Deckard is able to suspend his hatred of replicants after meeting Rachel, because the power of boners is greater than the power of duty.
Jeremy says boner.
Thank God this one light in the bar came on. Otherwise, this entire room would still be bathed in darkness and
Sinning the film for being artistic.
I'm sorry. Go home.
Honestly, the words stare at each other for a while turn up together in that order 15 times in this movie's script.
Dude, she's crying. I understand that you're used to dealing with batshit crazy banshees shrieking when they cry, but come on, this is a bullshit sin.
For some reason, she leaves abruptly. He sees it, and he doesn't say anything or follow her, because all the characters in this movie know there's a mystery involved that doesn't want to tip its hand too soon by characters doing logical things.
For some reason? Wouldn't happen to do with the fact that Deckard is refusing to help her and just told her,
I'm sorry. Go home.
Didn't the 6 replicants that escaped kill a bunch of people in the shuttle? Aren't they super wanted by the police right now? I mean, Bryant showed their mugshots to Deckard, so they must have distributed them to the regular police. Why is Pris walking around in front of all these cops right now?
This is the mugshot of Pris that has been circulating with the cops. This is what Pris looked like when she was walking down the street. You still wonder why the cops didn't stop her, or do I need to continue holding your hand some more?
You forgot your bag.
Great acting job and all, but Pris is a beautiful pleasure bot. Is all the subterfuge to get Sebastian really necessary when she could essentially just offer him, like, a blowjob? I mean, he might not look like it, but this is a red-blooded 25-year-old.
Look at this motherfucker. He builds lifelike toys and lives in a damn near dilapidated building. I think if a woman even said the word blowjob to him, he wouldn't know what to do with it and would probably faint.
We scared each other pretty good, didn't we?
We sure did.
We should be friends because of that.
Like you just mentioned, she is a beautiful woman. Men will justify any dumbass reason to become friends with a beautiful woman. Dude, she likes red, I like blue. Mix those together, you get purple. Those colors have 13 letters combined. Opposites attract, so flip them around, and that's 31. The Warriors blew a 3-1 lead.
They're toys. My friends are toys. I make them.
Sebastian is Sid from Toy Story all grown up.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche.
She's pretty, but how the hell does a guy with this many locks on his door fall for this shit?
Dude, she likes red, I like blue. Mix those together.
Do androids dream of electric unicorns running through the woods?
Referencing the books, short story that inspired this film while maintaining the lie that the books don't matter. They matter enough for you to constantly reference them.
And here you go. The inclusion of this f***ing unicorn dream scene is central to the debate over whether Deckard is a replicant or not, since Gaff will later do a unicorn origami thing. But why the f*** is it a unicorn at all? And is it Deckard's only dream he's ever had? My point is, this is a weird-ass image to use as the crux of the argument that Deckard's not human. He could have had a dream about f***ing Rachel, which would be a lot more enjoyable and would be awesome to see Gaff turn that into origami.
Okay, but at this point, you're sinning the film for something that you personally do not enjoy. And if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, you're not the screenwriter. This scene was so brilliant, it had people debating about whether or not Deckard is a replicant for nearly 40 years.
Enhance 224 to 176.
Zoom and enhance cliche.
You can't send the originator of the cliche. It wasn't a cliche when they did it. That's like sinning the Matrix for using slow motion.
Center and pull back.
The movie is so in love with its voice-activated video technology, it forgot to have Deckard tell it what it was to center on. There are a handful of things in the shot when he says center and pull back, and yet somehow the software reads his mind and shows him exactly what he wants to see. This is actually more amazing than replicant building technology.
First of all, you're sinning something that in your words is amazing. Second, how about you listen to what the hell he said? Center and pull back means to go back to the center of whatever the aspect ratio was and zoom out.
Remember, this is all in the background mirror of the original shot, FYI.
Pointing things out on the screen cliche, while also disregarding the fact that this is the future in a science fiction film, which means the technology is as advanced as the film wants it to be.
If Deckard's able to get this absurd level of detail in this photograph, the technology would not operate like a f***ing slide projector.
Says who? You can't just say things and then count that nonsense as a sin. If this is how the technology works in a sci-fi film, then this is how it works.
Give me a hard copy right there.
Not really about the movie, but this reminds me of my wife's grandmother, who every time we took a photo with our phones would tell one of us, send me a paper picture of that.
Admits that it's not about the movie, proceeds to send the movie anyway based on a random soliloquy. Dude, shit like this is why your videos are 20 minutes. Nobody cares about your cousin's grandmother.
This is some kind of restaurant, but they serve both shark and blow. Holy shit, that guy has an eagle on his head.
Oh hey, there's this thing on the screen that people that are watching also probably noticed. Better send the movie for that. Not to mention, it's not an eagle, but a raven. You can't even point things out on the screen properly.
Fish?
I think it was manufactured locally.
Man, it sure is convenient that Deckard has a molecular analyst seafood vendor nearby to his house. And what kind of person says, I'm going to start a fish stand and maybe we'll sell fish, but our first and most important commodity will be the ability to determine if small flesh samples are indeed from fish.
Okay, this takes a bit of explaining for those of you watching at home. The world of Blade Runner has been devastated by radiation after a world war. All animals are endangered or extinct. Tyrell Corporation not only creates humanoid beings, but also animoids or replicant animals. This means that someone dealing with animals like this fish vendor should have the technology to verify if an animal they're dealing with is real or synthetic. Being a detective, Deckard would know which vendors have this capability.
This is a future where street vendors can analyze flesh samples and tell you if they're fish or not, but also still has randos herding f***ing ostriches through the alleys. It's super advanced and super dilapidated, all at the same time.
It's almost like it's a neo-noir cyberpunk science fiction story.
So Deckard knows or is pretty sure this chick is a replicant, but he still booty calls her from a bar. So either Deckard is down with replicants or just loves f***ing more than he loves drinking.
Except Deckard is asking her to help him with his investigation. He may be developing feelings for her, but that's just because she's Einhorn and everyone kisses her. I mean him. I mean her.
Can I talk to you for a minute? I'm from the American Federation of Variety Artists.
This is kind of hilarious, but why did Deckard need to use a different voice? Zora has no clue who he is.
Jeremy continues to fail to understand acting.
I'd like to check your dressing room, if I may, for holes. Well, you'd be surprised what a guy go through to get a glimpse of a beautiful body.
Dude, she just performed naked with a snake for the last several minutes. Everyone got a glimpse of her body.
Yeah, but there's this little thing called consent.
Wait, she just showers that off? It's gotta take her like hours to get all bedazzled, right? There's gotta be a more efficient method.
I'm going to play what you said again, because I'm not sure what you're trying to say here.
Just showers that off? It's gotta take her like hours to get all bedazzled, right? There's gotta be a more efficient method.
What does her being able to shower off the scales have to do with the amount of time it takes to put them on. It's like you confuse yourself with your ridiculous thought process and just assume because you're confused, that's a sin. And you people wonder why I specifically refer to Jeremy when tackling these videos. There's no way 4 or more people thought this bullshit logic was worthy of a sin.
Of all the things the future people waste money on, this is somehow one of them. How much you want to bet some startup trust fund idiot sees the upcoming sequel to this movie, then watches the original, sees this at-home hair-drying bubble thing, and starts a new company around making these things a real product? I'll go $200 on my end.
Except this was what the writers in 1982 believed would be the natural evolution of these things, which still exist today.
Of course it's not real. Think I'd be working in a place like this if I could afford a real snake?
I don't know, you seem to be living in relative luxury. How much could a real snake possibly cost? Like half of what the walk-in shower and personal salon hair-drying apparatus cost?
Dude, you do realize that this is a dressing room, right? This is the whole reason Deckard was able to sneak in here. He's pretending to check for holes, remember? Hell, even in this scene she said,
Think I'd be working in a place like this if I could afford a real snake?
And as I mentioned before, all animals are nearly extinct. You have to be very well off to have a real snake.
Boy, Deckard sure got his killing boner up tonight, didn't he? I mean, he knows Rachel's a replicant, but didn't kill her because she was hot. And now he's got Zora in his sights, who's also hot, but I guess Deckard prefers No Way Out to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Cool. There's just this one tiny detail I think you're missing here. She just tried to kill him. I'm sure if she'd offered to play with his snake, he wouldn't have to put another hole in her, if you know what I'm saying. Also, Jeremy says boner again.
What the Did someone give the cinematographer the day off when they shot this and didn't tell Ridley Scott?
Are you suggesting that this isn't a cool scene? Because that would be sinful as shit.
After seeing this replicant get shot and get back up, I'd really like to know what they can and can't do. But the movie is never interested in telling us.
Except this is the movie telling you what they can do. Besides, she was only shot in the shoulder here. I'm sure that doesn't affect her legs.
Yes, even the beloved Blade Runner has Ex Machina moments. Deal with it.
This is not what Ex Machina means.
Not even Leaving Las Vegas tried this hard to convince you its main character like the sauce.
Okay, how many fucking times are you going to pad the sin count by pointing out every single instance that Deckard drinks?
Remember lessons.
You play beautifully.
Come on, man. She played like 2 measures while you were passed out on the fucking couch. This is such an obvious come on that even a replicant should be able to sniff it out.
As a musician myself, it pains me to hear someone think that even just 2 measures of music cannot be beautiful. Can I stop this video now? Remember how people responded to the Flashpoint video? Shit.
He already thinks she's a replicant, but apparently is just horny enough not to care. Either that or replicant technology is advanced to the point where they can have real emotional attachments with humans. I don't care which is which. I'm just sitting it because the movie basically explains nothing, and I'm kind of disgruntled about it.
You have failed at watching Blade Runner. The movie has explained multiple times that Nexus 6 models have begun developing human-like emotions, which is the entire reason they're illegal and why Roy was quoting poetry earlier. Rachel is a Nexus 7 model, a more advanced replicant, specifically created to be
more human than human.
If you're not going to watch the damn film, just turn it off.
Man, it sure feels like this movie forgot how to derelict Hannah.
What the f*** does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
What generation are you?
Nexus 6.
I thought Roy didn't even know who had the answers at Tyrell Corporation. How the does he know what generation he is then?
Are you seriously asking how an intelligent replicant who has begun questioning his existence knows which model replicant he is?
Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
Blue entry, a Mr. J.F. Sebastian.
It may be cool that Tyrell has an Amazon Echo in a movie from 1982, but it takes place in 2019, by which time Alexa will definitely be old news.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm from the future. No, not that future. 2019 is only 3 months away from me, and I can tell you that you're wrong. Alexa is still a budding technology.
What can he do for you?
And the maker repair what he makes.
Would you like to be modified?
Is every line in this conversation going to be a question? So what if it is? Does anyone want to make a declarative statement? Does it matter? Will this movie ever just get to the f***ing point?
Hold on. Are you sending the movie for simply asking questions? You son of a... The nerve that you... God damn it.
More life, Father.
Movie uses the glowy eyes trick whenever it wants the replicants to look like replicants, but this is the first time we've seen Roy's eyes do this. So if it's a matter of the light hitting the irises in a certain way, why doesn't Deckard use various positions with a flashlight instead of that bulky-ass Voight comp machine?
Failing to understand that this is for the benefit of the audience. Ridley Scott confirms this in Future Noir, The Making of Blade Runner, Chapter 8. Ridley's direct quote about the glowing eyes was that the effect was strictly a stylistic device, one more bit of detailing if you like. If the replicant's eyes really did glow like that within the context of the story, then why would you need a Voight Kampf machine to sniff them out? See? Even Ridley Scott thinks you're a dumbass.
For no reason at all, Ridley Scott wanted to feature his version of Jawas in this scene.
It's called world building, Jeremy. Kind of requisite for good science fiction. And before you start, Future Birdman, I already know I said this before. Jeremy just doesn't get the concept, so I have to spell it out for him over and over.
One of the reasons this movie is as long as it is because it lets really stupid moments like Deckard entering the building and climbing the stairs play out in virtually real time.
One of the reasons this video is as long as it is because you constantly point things out that are happening on the screen and treat them as if there are problems with the movie.
Jeez, why do people think Deckard is a replicant if this chick kicks his ass so handily and he has to shoot her with a gun to win the battle?
Look, I don't believe that Rick is a replicant either, but that doesn't prove the point that he isn't one. In 2049, Agent K got his ass kicked by Love and Sapper Morton, and he was outright stated to be a replicant, so...
Also, Pris is a sex robot specifically designed for leisure. How'd she get these fight upgrades that are effective against a well-seasoned Blade Runner?
She's still a replicant, though, which means that she is still stronger and faster than Rick. Not to mention she also caught him by surprise here.
This goes on for some time.
Missed opportunity for a Kill Bill reference.
Yep, the artificial humanoid thing is piercing his own hands with nails a la Christ, because, well, shit, I don't know. He wants to live, but he's gonna die. He's a robot. Somehow he's decided a Christ analogy is deserved, and honestly, if it gets us closer to the end of this movie, so be it.
There are much more parallels between Roy and Jesus that you're not giving the movie credit for, and that's just because you haven't been paying attention. Roy was created by Tyrell, who is the father of Roy and God to the replicants. Roy also forgives Deckard and saves him from dying at the end, and when he dies, releases a dove from his hands. It's all there, dude. Just try paying attention next time.
Time to die.
Wait, but it's 2019, right? Roy's incept date was 2016, and the Nexus 6 generation has a
4-year lifespan.
So what the happened here?
You can manipulate scenes for your audience, but I can see right through the BS. The movie suggests 4 years as an average. Roy's creation date was January 8th, 2016, and this movie takes place sometime in November 2019. That's minimum 3 years and 10 months, or if you're rounding, 4 years.
It's your birthday. Someone gives you a calfskin wallet.
Cells.
Answer the questions, please.
Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked.